Speaking of the Liberals, we're also hearing that Jeremy Broadhurst, the Liberals' national campaign director, is stepping down. With more on that big news, let's go to CTV's Rachel Aiello, who's standing by at our studios in Ottawa with more. Rachel, on what exactly this means, what the takeaway is. Is this bad news for the Liberals?
Good afternoon, Todd. Yes, so we have confirmed that Jeremy Broadhurst is stepping down as of the end of the month as the National Campaign Director for the Liberal Party of Canada. So in a context where we're talking about NDP leader Jagmeet Singh saying today that the next election is likely earlier than we thought even a day ago, and this really throws that next election into clear focus. If the Liberals have now lost their national campaign director, that is going to be a pressing issue for that party. In this letter from Mr. Broadhurst, he goes on to say that he still has the utmost confidence in Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party, but his feelings are because the stakes are so high in that next election and because of the time he spent with the party, he no longer feels like he has the energy, vigor, and vision to be the best person leading that charge.
So I'm curious what the takeaway might be politically here. Is this a sign of people jumping ship ahead of what could be a disastrous result next year in the federal election, or a changing of the guard, or depends on who you ask?
I think the depends on who you ask is probably the best place to put this one, Todd. The statement we received from Broadhurst is quite long. He goes on to explain his rationale for this, and it isn't, I would say, a read of him saying he's not confident in the Liberals' chances, though he is clearly aware that it is going to be a tough fight. He's talking in this statement about how the next election is going to be a key choice for Canadians between Poilievre's vision of the country, what he calls stoking fear and divisions, or are Canadians going to kind of push back at that and continue to work on the progress that he says the Liberal Party has fought for? Now, just to give our audience a bit of context on Broadhurst, he has been involved in the federal Liberal Party for a very long time. He became the National Campaign Director in 2019, and in a statement announcing it at the time, Trudeau was quoted as saying that he was integral in the Liberal Party's 2015 majority victory. He has been a top aide to the Prime Minister in the years that have followed. You might have recognized him testifying in some key hearings about past elections. So he's certainly been a central figure. It is going to be very big shoes for the Prime Minister and the Liberal Party to fill.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not known really to most Canadians at all, but definitely one of the people who is so integral behind the scenes in trying to make sure the party mobilizes, gets the vote out, is able to win re-elections, win key ridings, and on it goes. So that experience now will be gone. They'll have to find someone to take over. Let me talk to you about Jagmeet Singh too, because that's the other big political news today. So he comes out, he holds a news conference today, takes all sorts of questions from people who are saying, you know, why did you walk away from this deal? What is it going to mean? What was your big takeaway from what you heard from Singh?
The two main takeaways I had from that was, one, he is still dancing around this question of what he'll do when faced with a confidence vote. What we heard from him today is that he's going to take it on a case-by-case basis, which, Todd, is frankly how minority governments have worked for years and the way it was working with the NDP up until this deal was signed in 2022. So it'll be interesting to see how he walks that fine line. There's been a lot of conversation about him needing some time in order to frame himself to Canadians as the progressive choice for change. But in buying himself that time by continuing to prop up the Liberals, he's making the argument arguably harder to differentiate himself from Trudeau. So I thought that was interesting. Still not sure where they're going to fall on confidence votes. Poilievre made it clear yesterday they're going to be pushing for one as soon as the House comes back. But the other takeaway for me, Todd, was the message he is putting out. He kind of laid out his vision for the country in his opening remarks, talking about how he sees this as a push for hope and really focusing in on the Conservatives. He's put all of his attack lines towards Poilievre and his proposed cuts and really isn't spending much time trying to go after the Liberals, which to me is an indication that they think that is a wide open field, the progressive vote, for the NDP to slide in. And I guess we'll see if that bears out.
Is it possible as well, Rachel, that some of this is tied to Singh's own political fate? I mean, you know, his party's not doing well in polls. We know that. There are questions about his leadership. And, you know, maybe this is an effort for him to make a bold move, a risky move, but to try to separate away from the Liberals and try to get back some of that progressive support, maybe some voters who feel upset that he has tied the brand to the Liberals.
What was really clear from his messaging today, Todd, was that he is aware that the next election is frankly, within the next year. It's scheduled for October 2025, but now this more precarious parliament starting in the fall means that could happen anytime earlier. So my indication, Todd, is that he has looked at the next year as the runway to try to get out from under the Liberals and make the case. Now, you'll remember back, the Liberal Party was third party standing heading into the 2015 election. So I think it'd be remiss to say anything other than anything could happen. He even acknowledged, though, in his remarks that people will say it can't be done because there has never been a federal NDP government. So he's certainly going to try to spend the time. And I think that was tied to the timing of this announcement, pulling out of the deal now. Knowing most of the things within the two-party pact were accomplished, he can now spend the rest of the year or however many months left before the next election framing himself fully separated, potentially, from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Rachel Aiello with the very latest from Ottawa. Thanks for this, Rachel. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Todd.